Applying to med school is quite a difficult endeavor to undertake, especially when there's so many other people who are trying to fight for that same opportunity to get into med school. This means it's super important to try and get in on your first try, and along the way, there's going to be a lot of traps, bad advice, and challenges that you have to go through to make sure that you can get that spot in the end. Hi, I'm Archer, a first year medical student. Today, we're going to be looking at the traps that I noticed in applying to medical school last year. I managed to receive multiple medical school offers last year, and I think that some of that is down to treading down the path really carefully and making sure that I was trying to get everything right. But that didn't mean that there weren't challenges and things that I had to overcome along the way as well. We're going to be taking a look at all the different types of misinformation that are out there, whether it be from the internet, from forums or blog posts or something, from your friends or someone else who has already made it into medicine, and then also the advice that's given from your teaching staff. All right, let's start off with the biggest one, misinformation on the internet. Okay, so I'm actually a victim of this one, which is getting misinformation from the internet. So I spent a lot of my time in applying to medicine, searching for all of the sort of advice that I could get online. So eventually, of course, I landed on some forums where other pre-meds were asking questions to get advice in applying to medicine in 2019. It was good at the start because we could all talk about our worries in applying to medicine, but I soon quickly realized that there was quite a lot of misinformation out there on the internet, and particularly on these online forums. So what I gathered from it is that you need to be very careful with the information that you take from people online, even if they're credible and on these online forums and have previously got into medicine themselves. Now, trust me when I say this, there is a lot of misinformation out there, whether it be on these forums for getting into medicine or on blog posts on how to do well in the UCAT. It's extremely important to fact check everything that you read on the internet if you want to make sure that you're going to go through the right path into getting into medicine. Now, you might know the page that I'm referring to, but last year and this year as well, there's been pages where you can submit your UCAT score and everyone else can do it as well, so that they can build up enough data to predict the UCAT percentiles that are going to come out later in the year. However, there was a huge bias to the right end of scorers, and that was particularly those who were scoring 3,000 plus, which is well above the 90th percentile anyway. This caused quite a lot of problems. A lot of people thought that they weren't going to do well because they had things underneath 3,000, because that was all that was being reported. And then also it meant that it seemed quite easy to get 3,000 as well because everyone else had it. This caused everyone to think that the percentiles were going to go up so much compared to the UK just because everyone was scoring 3,000. But in reality, there was a lot more people scoring below 3,000, but they just weren't willing to either post it on this online forum because they didn't even know about it, or because they didn't want to post because they would have felt embarrassed with all of these higher scores being published. So already the people who are going on these forums are a very select few who are very dedicated to their studies. So hopefully you can see with that example, there's quite a lot of bias. And when this came out in 2019, my friends and I were pretty psyched out from it because people were saying 3,000 plus was going to be the 90th percentile bracket. And that was actually so far off from what it actually ended up being. These forums are also notorious for rumor spreading, which brings me on to our second point. There are a lot of rumors that go around about getting into med. Some of the few that I've heard include doing the Bachelor of Medical Science, which is going to give you the best chances of getting into medicine if you didn't make it in your first try. And then there's also the one that you're just good enough to do the interview without any practice because they'll see what a good person you already are. Now, there are cases where this is true for a very few select amount of people, but otherwise, if you're doing this, then you're probably jeopardizing your chances because you should be maximizing them by practicing for the interview, for example. The next thing that I want to mention is whenever you hear rumors or statements about how a university is taking into consideration potential applicants, make sure you fact check it completely. So when I say fact checking, I mean either giving them a call or asking for an email for a response back in writing, or just checking the website in general. I've had friends who have scored 99 plus ATARs and 99 UCATs as well, and because they believe their friends that med school applications were going to end the same date as any other preference that you would make on SATAC, for example, they missed out on a chance to get into med school because they didn't apply in time. I've also known people who have applied to this biomedicine degree because they thought that was the provisional entry degree to get into the Doctor of Medicine at a particular university. But they stuffed up the actual degree name for biomedicine when it was meant to be Bachelor of Medical Science. And that meant that he didn't actually secure a spot in medicine at all because he was in the wrong degree. And that was because he listened to his school career counselor rather than actually going ahead and fact checking it with the university themselves. Luckily, he was still able to get other medicine offers. And that brings me to the next point, which is about teaching staff and the advice that they can give you in applying to medicine. A lot of my friends actually had school counselors who didn't even know what the UCAT was until it had already happened. And so that meant if they hadn't actually already done the UCAT themselves, then they wouldn't have known that that is a prerequisite for them applying to the particular universities that they were looking for. So that wasn't particularly useful for them. That's an extreme case, but I keep hearing time and time again that there are career counselors that are just giving not the most up-to-date information to their students about applying to med school. Mostly comes down to the thing that I mentioned before about rumors that go around with friend groups and such. It's just the same thing that's happening here most of the time, but at a higher level. Now, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of good career counselors out there, but it just happens to be the case sometimes because they have to keep track of so many pathways that exist after year 12. And they have to keep on top of medicine, which is always changing in terms of what is required for you to apply to a university, and then also their criteria process in selecting the best applicants is changing all the time. It can be really hard for them to track all of these things happening at once, so it's really important that you keep track of it yourself. Now, recently in the past few weeks, there has been Monash University, which has changed the way that they are selecting applicants to go into their main first round of interviews. They're now just going to be using the UCAT to select who gets an interview offer in that first round, as opposed to previous years when they've used the ATAR and the UCAT. And this is the largest interview round that they actually have, so that's a really important change that people have to realize. So what should you take away from this? Make sure to fact check everything that you hear about applying to medicine, even if it's from someone who's credible. Even with the advice that I give here on this channel or any other YouTuber or anything else on the internet, make sure you check it out for yourself to make sure that you're looking at the most up-to-date information that is currently out there so that you can make the best evidence-based decision that you can. You want to do this so that you don't derail off the track to medicine, so that you don't waste any opportunity or time in applying. I've got a whole playlist on similar videos to this where I go through the things that are most important for us in applying to med school. All right, thanks again for watching, and that's it for this one. Bye-bye.